The sight of migrants being rescued after desperate journeys across the Mediterranean are sadly a familiar sight on our screen. So too are the conditions at the so-called jungle migrant camp near Calais. On Friday, campaigners claimed that they'd identified almost 400 refugee children living there who were vulnerable and at risk, but they are eligible to come to the UK. The government, however, remains resolute that there can be no free movement of migrants. Figures from the United Nations indicate that 2016 has been the deadliest year on record for refugees crossing to Europe via the Mediterranean. Pictures of 3-year-old Syrian boy Alan Kurdi washed up on a Turkish beach brought the world's attention to the crisis, and many more lives have been lost since.
UNHCR estimates that since Alan's death, 4,176 people have died or gone missing on the Mediterranean. An average of 11 men, women and children perishing every single day over the last 12 months.
Campaigners say that almost 400 refugee children living in the so-called jungle migrant camp in Calais are eligible to come to the UK to join their families. A protest outside the Home Office on Friday urged the government to take action. It was attended by faith leaders and high-profile activists such as actress Juliet Stevenson.
It strikes me as very, very tragic that since Alan Kurdi died a year ago, so many more hundreds of children have also lost their lives, whose names we don't know, whose photographs were not taken, and who knows what their destiny would have been had they had a chance to live.
At a cabinet meeting at Chequers last week, ministers agreed that serious curbs on immigration were essential. However, Home Secretary Amber Rudd says the UK is on track to resettle 20,000 Syrian refugees by 2020. Germany expects to take in 300,000 refugees this year alone. And the charity Refugee Action says the UK must go further and faster. So what is our responsibility? Should the UK take in more migrants? Well, rejoined now by poet and broadcaster Lem Sissay and by journalist and columnist Angela Epstein. Yasmin, let me begin with you. Have we done enough to help the migrants in Calais?
No, we haven't. And when Cameron was in power, he said we would take 4,000. That was about 18 months ago. And we haven't taken any of those. But the children are the biggest worry. And some of them actually have relatives here. Some of them have homes to come to. And many Syrians I know, particularly Syrian families, have offered to foster these children. So I don't understand how we can sign up to a treaty which was signed up to on, let's not talk about migrants, we're talking about refugees. People from Syria, most of them, well, we know they're refugees by the basic definition of what refugees are.
Peter.
We need to get them over.
Peter, have we done enough?
Well, they're not refugees by the basic definition of what refugees are, because they long ago reached a safe country in the shape of Turkey. What they became when they left Turkey and tried, quite reasonably, I don't in any way denigrate their ambitions to move to a more prosperous part of the world, but what they became when they left Turkey was migrants, and they seek to come here. Now, there are legal ways of coming to this country, and it involves applying for entry under legal forms, and you can do that, or you can go and set up an illegal camp in France and put moral pressure on states to let you in,
what if
let you in and let you jump the queue. This is unfair on the people who have gone through the process properly.
What about
legally.
the children?
It's not
Peter.
Taken.
Sorry, Yasmin. Let me just. Yasmin. Let me just ask
this. No, I'm sorry. I do have to contradict you.
What about the children who are fleeing from Syria, who are fleeing from violence and persecution in their country, and they're in this camp in the so-called jungle?
Why are they there? Why are they?
Because they fled.
Why are they in this place, which is known to be dangerous and squalid and violent?
So it's their fault.
How did they get there?
It's their fault.
How did they get there?
I think the thing is that look, anybody with a shred of humanity would weep bitterly at the sight of any child in particular, the most vulnerable in society, being in this desperate situation. And of course our knee-jerk moral response is that we have to help. But we have to have a managed response. Now, for example, there's a lot of talk about the comparisons with the Kindertransport, when the British government offered refuge to Jewish children fleeing during the Second World War. But even then, some kind of surety had to be offered either by private individuals or organisations to act as a guarantor for the children that came here. Now, these children were fleeing from desperate circumstances. Nobody is suggesting that, you know, children should be left to fend for themselves. And I agree with Peter. Turkey, or from where they come from Syria and beyond, is a very long way from Calais. And certainly from a kind of cultural position, if somebody is to be in that terrible position of to become a refugee, which is different from being an economic migrant, obviously, a different kind of argument, surely there needs to be some placement in a country that is somehow culturally more similar, so that even if that is for a short space of time, the reabsorption will be better afterwards.
Are we saying now that people who flee or want to go to another country, we have to determine which countries they go to and what culture
talking about what's
relevant
better
to them?
for, what might be better.
People have been migrating since people have always migrated. I migrated the moment I came out of my mother's womb, from there into the open air. Migration is at the heart of who we are as natural human beings, and my patriotism, my love of being British, I was born here in the villages of Lancashire, is exemplified by how open I am to people coming to this country.
That's a different conversation, though.
I'm strengthened by people coming to this country, not weakened.
Countries do not have a limitless capacity.
Well, what is the limit?
To absorb
Peter,
migrants.
what is that limit?
I would say the limit. I would say the limit. If you ask the question, I'll answer it. I would say the limit is defined by what we can take in the form of housing, of employment, in public services, in health services, in schools, and also, and this is very important, in our ability to absorb. When people come from other cultures, they will absorb and integrate if they're given the chance to do so. But if there is a constant flow, if there is a constant flow of migration, then it is much harder for existing migrants to integrate and for the country to integrate them. And indeed, many of the people who are most concerned about the level of migration this country is currently undergoing are people who've migrated here in the past and see their own position
Can we talk about
made
refugees?
worse by it.
We're talking about refugees. We're talking about refugee children.
We're not talking. We've established we're not talking about refugees. We're talking about migrants.
We're talking about refugees.
No, actually, we are.
Address my point.
We're talking about refugees.
Address my point.
Can I talk?
Why are they refugees?
Peter, I need to talk.
Why are they refugees?
I need to
Don't
talk.
shout.
And so do I. So do I. Let's have equality about this. Why are they refugees?
Yasmin is responding.
I am responding.
Refugees.
More people, and actually when Jewish people came, let me remind you, all the papers said there were aliens. The word alien came into use when the Jewish people were coming over. Okay, so the refugees. So when your cultural point, but those are refugees.
You're
those
not
refugee
making any sense
children,
by saying that.
We have not, as Alf Dubs has said consistently and persistently, we have not taken the refugees that we absolutely, as a European-wide, whether we're in the EU or not, absolutely have a responsibility to take.
And the government has vowed
and they have said yes,
20,000
and they have not taken them. And that's the point. They have not taken them.
But that's
we are
the
breaking
point.
our word.
You know, Yasmin uses the word responsibility, and I think it is key to the whole discussion. You're absolutely right. We're talking about refugees. We're using words like crisis and responsibility. We're not talking about economic migrants, as Peter said, looking for prosperity in other countries. We talk about a moral responsibility, but with responsibility comes the ability to be able to provide accordingly. And if you don't have a managed response, as I said, or the protocol in place, then it's all very well saying that Cameron, and you're absolutely right, he did promise, and that promise hasn't been honoured. But there has to be the structure in place before we go about.
Whose fault is the managed response? Like, if we have refugees coming here and there isn't a managed response, why are we blaming the refugees? And why are we not calling out absolutely?
Why are we blaming the refugees?
Calling our government to account, calling the education system to account, calling the children's services to account. Those are the people who we should be. Those are the places where we should be asking to provide for those people.
We should be blaming, amongst other things, our own government, which is created by several unnecessary and stupid wars. The conditions under which people are fleeing from Afghanistan, from Syria and Iraq, and also through Libya, where we destroyed the existing government. That there is a very heavy responsibility on our government and on those who supported the wars for that. But they are not refugees once they have reached a safe country.
Let's find out what our viewers are saying. We're talking about whether or not we're doing enough to help the migrants in Calais. You've been having reactions coming in as well. Tommy, I understand from all the other subjects we've been talking about this morning.
You said it was going to be a meaty one. It has been. been, really has been. There's been lots of sympathy for immigrants as well, but lots of people saying what kind of stretch is it going to be putting on the resources here in the UK? So should we take in more migrants? No, says Nicola. Our social services are under huge stress already. We have kids in the UK that go hungry and live in poverty, so we need to help them. Billy says, yes, we have taken hardly in any migrants. Our country is partly responsible for the Iraq war, and this is one of the consequences. Elizabeth saying, of course we should take them in. They are children in need of stability. The question that needs to be asked is, what sort of people turn away children in desperate need? And Julie says, no, we shouldn't take in any more migrants. Our country has plenty of people who are born and bred here that need our help. Charity should begin at home. And finally, Robert says, can we all please put our stupid ignorance aside and just help these kids already? I'm sure something that Jasmine will agree with.
Absolutely, Yasmin. I want to pick up with you because France is a safe country. The children in Calais, they'd be safe there.
But they have families here. The 350 of them, as Alf Dubbers said, have family connections to this country. And how can we have a refugee policy? And I agree with you that, you know, when families are able to vouch for those children and look after them, what is holding this back? We have not done our duty by them.
Angela.
Well, the other thing I was going to say, I know that this is kind of a curveball here, we have an overburdened foreign aid budget. Why don't we spend it on helping? I mean, this is a foreign situation, if you like, in a broader sense. I mean, there has to be money in the pot to do this. We're spending money we're sending money to India, which has a space program. I know that's often used as an example of that. But we have to have some kind of protocol. And if the husbandry is there and it can be done properly, then...
But Angela, we do, and it's one of the very few things I praise this government over, is that it does actually spend a large amount of money on helping refugees from the Syrian war near to where their homes are, in the hope that they can come home, which is a much more sensible thing than what we're currently doing, which is encouraging people smugglers and falling for their public relations. If the entire jungle emptied tonight and everybody in it came to Britain, within 3 weeks it would be there again in the same place. People smugglers carry on sending people there all the time.
I pride myself on being...
We have 30 seconds. I'd like final thought from you.
I pride myself on being British, and I pride myself on our openness and the fact that we have constantly had immigration in this country. It's part of what keeps us alive and healthy.
Thank you very much for your thoughts. Lemmy, Peter, Angela, Yasmin, and to all of you today, it's just been